Vishnuvad Paramahamsa Parivarajacharya Stotara Sata Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Obhoy Charnaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Iskan Samstapakacharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jayam Vishnuvad Paramahamsa Parivarajacharya Varya Stotara Sata Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Singha Guru Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai, Amir Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Radhakun Shamakun Giri Govardhana Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai, Goprem Anandi Haribo Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Gurave Guru Chandraya Radhikaya Tudalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Namashrestam Mamapi Sachiputram Matra Swarupam Rupam Dasya Grajam Madhupurim Maturim Gospravatim Radha Kundam Girivaram Mahoradhika Madhavasam Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tamtosmi Ajalam Vato Bujo Kamekavadato Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishvambaro Vijavaro Yugadharma Palo Vande Priyakaro Karuna Avatar Anarpita Chirim Chirat Karuna Avatina Kalo Samarpaitam Anushula Rasam Swabhakti Sriyam Hari Bharata Sundara Dhyuti Kadamba Sandipitaha Sada Vidaya Kandare Spodatuva Sachinandana Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Chachi Adire Kapola Kahe Premananda Emana Koranga Vivaya Chaya Pola Bhakti Labhya Prema Vidhana Parama Pumarta Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Vancha Bhavadurubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I want to thank everyone here This is a Vaishnava Sangha. A Vaishnava will never think that he's going to preach to the Vaishnavas or speak to them. Thakur Bhaktivinoda, he sings it, Gari cha achare, rohi lama moji, yakori no nasaru sangha. Loe sabavesh ani upadesh, ranga. This is Maya's big joke, that I'm sitting here in front of all of you, just as a Vaishnava, and I'm speaking something to you. So a Vaishnava shouldn't think that way. This is a Vaishnava Sangha. We're all taking part in it. There's a designated speaker, and there's a designated listener. And it's not that one is better than the other. So we need your blessings that we can say something today. We'd like to speak something about the principle of mercy and how that comes. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, He's described many times as being Pati Pavan, or the Savior of the fallen. It's that relationship that we want to evoke, that we want to realize. We want to get the mercy of the Lord. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he describes it, Anarpita chirim chira karuna avatirna kalo samarpayitam anujula rasam svabhakti shriyam. The Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come and he's giving what no incarnation ever gave before. He's giving Swabhakti Shriyam. And that has a very deep purport to it. More than what we'll say this time. But it means, in one sense, his own ecstatic love, which is not given before. So we describe that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is the Lord of mercy. We describe Sri Nityananda Prabhu as Doya Thakur. He's the deity, the Lord of mercy. But why is it that we're not getting the mercy? This is an important question. This very nice song by Narottam Das Thakur, he describes how we should approach the Lord and the mood that we should cry out to Him. Gauranga Karuna Koro Dinahina Jane. My dear Lord Gauranga, please be merciful to me. Oh, who are you? Ami Dinahina Jane. I'm a very, very fallen and low person. If we approach the Lord in this kind of mood, then we'll get the mercy of the Lord. But so many times we approach Guru and Krishna in a different kind of mood. Maharaj, please accept me as your disciple. And you'll be very lucky if you accept me. Because you know I'm very educated. And I'm a great devotee. And I'm rich beside that also. So you'll be very lucky if you accept me. That's not the way to get the mercy of Guru and Krishna. We have to have some kind of identification. The identification is, the word in Sanskrit is upadi. We have some designation. And everyone has some designation. And these upadis, which are like some life raft in the middle of the ocean that we're clutching onto to try to protect ourselves, to try to save ourselves. This is me. I'm this person. I'm that person. But as long as we have those kind of upadis, we can't really approach the Lord in the proper way. And Krishna taught this to his Vastraharana Leela on the bank of the Jamuna. When the gopis who wanted to establish their sambandha, their relationship with Krishna, they were coming every day and taking bath during the month of Margashirsha in the cold waters of the early morning in the Jamuna. And Krishna came, and we know he stole their clothes. And then he told them, now you come out and stand in front of me naked. Some unscrupulous persons, they think that this is some kind of erotic affair. They forget to mention that the gopis were only about 8 years old at that time. There's no question of eroticism. There's a purport behind it. Krishna's teaching us that if we want to establish our sambandha with Him, our relationship, then we have to come naked before Him. We have to come naked before God and Krishna. Before Guru and Krishna. We have to give up all these different upadhis, all these different designations. And as Sanatana Goswami described, Kayami, who am I? I have no designation. I have nothing. But we have so many things. And just like a person going to the department store to purchase some clothes, they get some clothes off the rack. So we're also going to the department store, false ego, and looking through the racks and taking down some dress and putting it on ourselves and saying, yes, this is me. I'm this person. And then when we have something, that's my value. And we see many times when people first come to Krishna consciousness, we were speaking about this the other day in Zurich, I think, they have a bit of a crisis of identity. I used to be the Bhakta leader in Los Angeles. And sometimes we'd make friends with some person coming to the temple. Maybe they might have long hair, old faded jeans they're wearing, and they're a very cool person. And after some time they decide, I really like this, and I want to move into the temple. So we found many times they have a crisis of identity, because they had carefully constructed for so many years their identity in the form of their long hair, in the form of their really cool jeans they have, in the form of their record collection, and their taste in music. But then when they joined the Bhakta program, their head was shaved and they lost their jeans, and they had to give away their record collection, all of a sudden, who am I? And then someone very quickly comes along and tells them, no, it's okay. You're a Hare Krishna devotee. You're an ISKCON devotee. You're a devotee of the Los Angeles Temple. Oh, thank you very much. Now I have some designation for myself. Those kind of designations are helpful. They're uplifting for us. But still, it's not that when you go to the spiritual world you can say that, no, I'm from the Zurich Temple. You should let me inside. It's not enough. And people are starting to realize this. There was a article we saw recently on the one news site in America that described that they did some survey and they said that 34 million people in America decided that they don't want anything to do with organized religion. 34 million people. And this article is called Finding God After Leaving Religion. And there's many, many people who appreciate that. Because what goes on in the name of religion many times is just some mechanical formula. The difference between religion, or mechanical following, and real spiritual life is when we have some personal experience of God. And in the West we call that mysticism. Someone sees God, or Moses on Mount Sinai hears a voice and the Lord speaks to him. When we have some kind of experience like that, then naturally our faith becomes very, very strong. But who does that happen to? In the Bible, Jesus says that, empty thy cup and I'll fill you. So we have to empty our cup. And so Narottam Das Thakur in his song, he's singing, Gauranga Karuna Koro, Dina Hina Jane. I'm Dina. I'm fallen. And I'm Hina. I don't have anything. Does it mean you don't have anything? Well, you have so many nice saris, so many nice dhotis, you have so many musical instruments in your house, and so many pieces of furniture. But when we come to realize that all of those things don't mean anything, and they're not going to protect you, Dehapatra Kalatra Dish, Atmasanyai Sasatsvapi. The Bhagavatam describes them as fallible soldiers. You're trying to take shelter of them to defend yourself. But there's no hope there. When we come to realize that I don't have anything, when we come to realize that I'm really Dina, I'm really fallen, which comes when we're honest, when we just look at ourselves. And then we pray, Mo Samapatita Prabhu, Nahi Tribhuvani. There's no one more fallen than me. and all the three worlds. When we really feel like that, then we can get the mercy of the Lord. But raise your hand. How many of you here really feel more fallen than anybody you meet, even the meat eaters on the street, or even the child molesters? Raise your hand honestly. How many of us feel more fallen than them? Good. How can we feel more fallen than a meat eater? How can we feel more fallen than someone who molests children or does some terrible thing? One answer is there in a verse written by Raghunath Das Goswami. Nirupari karunena Sri Satchinandanena Tvahi kapati satopi Tvat priyena pitosmi Iti kalu mama yogya Yogyatam tamagrinan Nija nikata nibasam Dehi govardhanatvam. It's the final verse of his Govardhan Prarthana Dasakam, his prayers to Giri Govardhan. And he prays in there that, my dear Lord, even though I'm a kapati, I'm a crooked person, I'm satopi, I'm a very criminal person, please give me your mercy. We can think like that there's so many people who are not vegetarian, there's so many people who are doing terrible crimes in this world, but actually they're better than me. Because they never heard about Krishna. And they're just being simple, and they're actually doing what the Lord wants in an indirect way. But even though I've heard so much about Krishna, and even though I've come to the lotus feet of Guru, and even though I'm supposed to be chanting, inside something else is there. Once there was a man who went to Radhakund. He'd retired from a wealthy family life in Calcutta. And he decided, I want to spend the rest of my life in Nam Bhajan. So he went to Radhakund, and after some time there he met a very elevated sadhu. And he approached that sadhu, oh, Mahatma, please give me initiation. But that sadhu Mahatma, he saw that this rich man was very proud, because he was very educated. And he came from a very aristocratic family. And he always had so much wealth. He saw he can't really take this valuable jewel that I have. He can't really receive it properly, the jewel of the holy name. So he said, no, I'm not doing like that. And again, that wealthy man came, please, Maharaj, Kripa Koro, please give me your mercy, please give me initiation. Finally, that wealthy man showed some kindness to him. That sadhu showed some kindness to the wealthy man. And he said that, anyway, I'll accept you, but you have to give me some bakshish, some guru dakshina. Yes, Maharaj, what is it? What would you like? Small thing. I would just like you to bring one person or one living entity, even, to me who's lower than yourself. And you have 1 week. And if you can bring me someone who's lower than you in 1 week, then I'll give you initiation. The man was ecstatic. Very wonderful. This won't be very hard. I come from a very aristocratic family. But that Sadhu Mahatma said, but he must be lower than you in every respect. Yes, no problem. So he went out and he saw a rickshawala going by at Radhakund. He thought, hey, I'll bring him. Look, he has a very low job. He's carrying people around all day. But then he thought, oh, but actually he's serving the sadhus. Many saintly persons are also riding on his rickshaw. No, I can't. He has some qualities better than me. And then he saw a dog. Oh, definitely this dog is lower than me. And then he realized this dog is always rolling in the dust. The Radhakund. He has some good qualities that I don't have also. And that way, 6 days went by and he couldn't find anyone. The 7th day went by. And the morning arrived and he had to go to that Sadhu Mahatma, and he hadn't found anyone who was actually lower than him in every respect. That morning, he went out to the field to answer the call of nature. And when he finished his business, he turned and looked down on the ground. He saw there in his own stools a worm. He crawled into the stool and was eating it. And he thought, yes, this creature, this personality, this is lower than me. But then he thought to himself, but actually, he has a good quality that I don't have. I am eating very nice prasadam every day. And what happens to that nice prasadam after I finish eating it? It becomes some terrible, nasty thing. But this worm is eating that and turning it into some good thing. He's actually better than me. So then he went to that Sadhu Mahatma and he hung his head down. He said, Maharaj, I'm very sorry. I can't get your mercy because I couldn't find anyone who in every respect is lower than me. And that Sadhu Mahatma became very pleased. He said, now you're fit to receive the holy name. Because those persons who really consider themselves Chanadapi Samuchina, lower than the straw on the street, they have qualification to chant the name. Dande Chana Dori Gora Daki Heto Mara. Naughton Das Thakur, he sings it. This is how I'm calling out the names of the Lord. I'm taking some straw, some grass, and putting it in my mouth. And then I'm calling out His names. Does that make sense? If you put a bunch of grass in your mouth, can you call out? No. It has a purport. In Orissa, still to this day, in the small villages, you sometimes see someone coming to your door with straw in his teeth, and sometimes a garland of shoes around his neck. That person may have done something wrong. Maybe he tied a cow up out in the hot sun and forgot to give it water and the cow died. So for prayaschitta, for atonement, he puts on that necklace of shoes and puts his straw in his mouth, and they'll go door to door and knock on each door, and they'll just stand there. And they won't say anything. You can't say very much when you have straw in your mouth. And those people will see, oh, this person did something bad. And then they'll give them a little bit of rice, some sabji or something. And whatever they collect in that way, that's what they'll eat for 1 week or 1 month or whatever period of time it may be. So when we have straw in our teeth, it indicates abject humility. Because you can't say anything. Because we're always using our mouth to glorify ourselves. You know, I remember when Gurudev told me, and he and I were like this, and he said to me, and me, and I. This is the way we conduct our glorification of our Guru or other Vaishnavas. We're really just wanting to talk about ourselves. That's our favorite subject. But when you have straw in your teeth, it indicates, I have nothing to say, and I'm willing to accept your punishment. It indicates that you're not speaking with the mouth, but you're speaking from the heart. Dante Chanadori Gura, Daki He Tomar. This is the way I'm calling out your name. Not just from my mouth, but from my heart. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he may say, well, what is it that you want? Kripa Kori Shalama Hridaya Mandire. I want to do some reconstruction in my heart. There's a big temple in my heart. I want to tear it down and rebuild it. The temple that's in my heart now is a temple where the worship goes on of me. Because I'm my favorite person. But I want to destroy that. And I want to make a temple for you in my heart. So then, Naughton Das Thakur, perhaps he's thinking that the Lord may not accept him. Jaridoya nakoribe patita dekiya. Okay, you're calling calling out my name, but there's a lot of people who are more qualified than you. Why should I give mercy to you? So many people are more qualified. So Narottam Das Thakur, he threatens the Lord. Jadidoya na koribe, patita dekhiya. If you decide not to give me mercy when you see how fallen I am, patita pavananama, kishera lagiya, we'll have to change your name. The deity's there. There's a little name plate underneath. It says Patita Pavan, the most merciful. We're going to remove that plaque because it's not true. If you don't save me, how are you the Savior of the fallen? Such a person who really feels himself Dina and Hina, they can cry out to the Lord like this. And then the Lord may say, well, anyway, I'll give you some mercy. You stand in the queue. And you look, there's a very long queue waiting for the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's millions of devotees waiting in that queue. So Narottam Das Thakur says, I can't wait. Podichi bhavatu fane nahi kanistara. I'm dying. If you don't give your mercy to me now, I'll not survive. I'm lost in the middle of the ocean. I can't see the shore. And the waves are beating me. Podechi bhava tufani. What kind of tufani, what kind of waves are those? They're waves of material nature. Coming in the form of so many material desires. So many wicked thoughts. So much anger and lust and greed. And those waves are bashing me. And they never stop. There's no hope. Shri Charana Tadani Dane Dase Koro Para. So I'm praying to you, you please give me the boat of your lotus feet. That's the only shelter that I have. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, perhaps he tells Narottam, yes, you can have shelter on this boat. But first, do you have a ticket? No ticket, no entrance allowed. You can't get on. Narottam says, no, I have a very good ticket. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Dasirandasa. This is my ticket, my Gurudev and my Param Gurudev. I'm coming in your line. Shri Charana Taradidane Dase Koro Para. Pratana Koro Yisada Narotomo Dasa. Pratana Koro Yisada. And this is the way I'm always doing my prayers. Not just once in a while, but every day and constantly. I'm crying like this. I'm praying like this. And such a person who prays like that, they get the mercy of the Lord. That's the real beginning of spiritual life. And this is described by Jagadananda Pandit in his Prema Vivarta. He speaks in Prema Vivarta about the journey of the soul and how the living entity is transmigrating from one body to another, He says, Kabu swage kabu marte nara keva kabu, kabu deva kabu daija kabu dasa kabu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Kabu swage kabu marte nara keva kabu, kabu deva kabu daija kabu dasa kabu. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Sometimes you become a king. Sometimes you become a temple president. Kabu Praja. Praja, sometimes you become a citizen. Kabu Vipra Sudra. Sometimes you're a Vipra Brahman. And sometimes a Sudra. Kabu Duki. Sometimes unhappy. Kabu Suki. Sometimes happy. Kabu Kita Kudra. Sometimes you become a tiny worm and stool. Kabu Swarge. Sometimes you're in the heavenly planets. Kabu Marte. Sometimes you're on the earthly planet. Nadakeva Kabu. Sometimes you go to hell. Kabu Deva. Sometimes you become a great demigod. Kabu Daitya. Sometimes you become a demon. Kabu Dasa Prabhu. And sometimes you become a servant of others. So the living entity is traveling like this through so many births, and we have so many identifications we have. Jagadananda Pandit sings, Erupe samsara brahmita purnajana sadhu sangha nija tattva avadara. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Hare Hare. If by good fortune, Erupa samsari brahmiti kona jana, that person, after wandering through so many universes, sadhu sangha, they get association with saintly persons. And nija tattva, they learn something about who I really am. You're not that set of clothes from the department store. You're not that costume that you put on yourself. You're a spirit soul. Then at that time, that living entity begins to cry. Nija tattva janiya samsara nacha, napampantinu maya kori hare hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. De bole ohe Krishna ami avadas, maracharana chari. When you understand this thing, I'm not this costume from the department store. Then samsara chai, he doesn't want this material life anymore. And then at that time, he begins to cry. Kena va bhajina maya. I've been doing bhajan for so long. I've been doing bhajan of Maya. Koli hoy hoy. And he begins to cry. And he cries out to the Lord, Oh Krishna, Kindi boli, oh hey Krishna, Amitavadas. I'm your servant. I'm not this costume. Please give me shelter at your lotus feet. Kripa Gauri Krishna Kare Chaitanya Samsara Bhakti Purina Krishna Jari Bhakti. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Devi Tane Ake Krishna Bhani Cha Jite Bhajite Krishna Bhani. It says that as soon as someone begins to cry like this, then immediately the Lord reciprocates. As soon as someone begins to cry out for Krishna, Krishna comes to that person. So we often make this point, we were making this point in Bern at the Rath Yatra a few days ago. Who does Krishna belong to? He doesn't belong to anyone. He belongs to everyone, and he belongs to no one. He's not the property. of the Christians. He's not the property of the Muslims. He's not the property of the Jews or the Hindus. He's not even the property of the Hare Krishnas. Don't think that just because you put on this costume with some neck beads and a dhoti and sari that that's all I need to do. Now Krishna will be convinced. It requires something more. That person who cries out to the Lord, that person, Krishna becomes his property. Krishna tells Arjuna in the Adi Purana, Gatva cha mama namani rudanti mama sanido te shamaham varikrito nanyakrita janardana. He says that those persons who chant my names and cry before me, they purchase me. And I am not purchased by anyone else. He's not the property of any religion. He's not the property of any group. He's the property of those persons who cry out to him. And we need to understand that. Krishna will come to anyone who cries to him. Not just if they're a Hare Krishna or a member of the Zurich temple. Puja, I'm sorry, you belong to the temple in Budapest and you're second class. Krishna won't come to you. Only if you're from Switzerland. Only if you're a disciple of this guru or a member of this group. We have to give up these kind of sectarian feelings. There's a story I read about in the news some years ago. There was an old woman, it was a sad story, it was an old woman in Berlin who was walking down some dark alley one evening and a young punk jumped out from a doorway with a steel bar. And he held that over her head and he said, "Old woman, give me your money or I'm going to kill you." And that poor old woman, she didn't have any money. And she said, I don't have anything. And that young punk said, "Then you're going to die." So the newspaper carried the coroner's report, the report from the doctor who did the deaths, made the death certificate. And he said it was a very amazing thing. That day, there wasn't a cloud in the sky that evening. But suddenly, out of nowhere, a bolt of lightning came and struck that piece of metal bar, and that young punk died. And they asked that old woman what happened. And she just cried. And she said, "I cried out to the Lord. And the Lord saved me." So when we find ourselves in such a situation as that, that's when our spiritual life really begins. And therefore Kunti Devi, she prays to the Lord. She said, "My dear Lord, I have a problem. Please help me." Everyone is coming to the Lord with problems. But her problem was very unique. Krishna said, "What is wrong?" She said, "I have 4 problems. Janmaishriya Shrita Shuta Shribir Edamana Madapama Nayavahat Yapidatumvai Tomakinchan Boja." My first problem is I'm a princess. Mother Shana, if you could be a princess, would you complain? If they called you up and said, "Actually, we found out that you're supposed to inherit the royal throne in England," would you complain about that? No. But Kunti Devi, she's complaining. This is a problem that I have. Second problem that I have, too much money. Raise your hand, honestly. How many of us think it would be a problem if I had too much money? There's a saying in America, what do you buy as a gift for the man who has everything? He's a very rich person, he has everything. The answer is you purchase for him a burglar alarm. Because he's going to be in so much anxiety. So she said, "This is my second problem. Aishvarya. I have so much opulence. And my next problem is, Shruta. I have too much education. Everyone in this world, they're crying, I want to go to the university, I want an education." But she's saying this is a problem, this is not a good thing. And what was the last problem? Shribir. I'm too beautiful. Let's be honest. Ladies, don't mind. Raise your hand. How many ladies here think it would be a great burden to be too beautiful? A few. Because then you get harassed all the time. And so many lusty fellows, they see you in a very nasty way. So she said, these are problems that I have. Why are they problems? Because as long as I have these 4 things, I can't cry for you. Why should I cry for Krishna? I'm doing very good. I have everything. But that crying is the beginning of our spiritual life. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, he describes this in Chaitanya Bhagavat. Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Dhamma, Bhakti Yoga, Krishna Namaskar. Bhakti Yoga Dana. If you want to get a message across to someone, you tell them 3 times. Hey dummy, this is the real wealth. Dana, Bhakti, Bhakti, Bhakti. Don't worry about getting a big job and money and a new car. This is the real wealth. So then a person says, well, what is that wealth? What is that Bhakti? Bhakti A, Krishna Nama. Bhakti is Krishna's name. But Smarana, not just chanting Krishna's name, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, in a mechanical, external way. But thinking of Krishna and Krandana, crying. And Vrindavan Das Thakur says that Krishna boli kandile se, Krishna nama nile. That person who cries when he chants Krishna's name, he's really chanting Krishna's name. Dhani kuli kichu nahi Krishna na bhajile. And all your wealth and high family, those things are useless. They have no meaning. We need to come to understand that point. And when we can come to understand that point, then we can really begin our Nam Bhajan. We can really begin to call out to the Lord. We sometimes sing about the glories of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. Dosha Dhanasi Mora Prabhu Nityananda Nabhajidu Heno Prabhu Charanaravi Hoi Rena Jani Mui Kemona Asura Payana Bhajinu Heno Toyara Takura Dosha Dhanasi Mora Prabhu Nityananda Nabhajidu Heno Prabhu Charanaravi. Lord Nityananda Prabhu, He's Daya Thakur. He's a Lord of mercy. But I never worshipped Him. Because so many other things were on my mind. So many other things were there in my heart. Why should I take shelter of Him? I'm doing pretty good. I know 15 verses in the Bhagavad Gita. I'm practically a self-realized soul. I go to Mangalartik every day. I do this thing and I do that thing. We have so many things which we count as valuables in our closet. But we have to come to the point of seeing that they really amount to nothing. And we're praying for the mercy of Lord Nityananda. But what is that mercy? Shivananda Sain got the mercy of Lord Nityananda. He kicked him and he cursed him. Your children will die. His wife started crying. You can imagine, what did you? You would cry. But her husband, she wanted to sing, make the dance in ecstasy. Very good. Very good. Is it cruelty? Is it some kind of bizarre, horrible story? Chaitanya Charitamrita? No. Lord Nityananda's mercy comes in the form of a kick. When we lose everything. When we lose our wife. When we lose our husband. When we lose our children. When we lose our fame and reputation, everything that we have, and we have nothing, then at that point, we can cry for the Lord. Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Krishna Namaskar. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. One such story is there of a king in Puri. We printed some article about his life in our recent Krishna Katamrita magazine. I'd like to tell you that story. This king of Puri, his name was Ramachandra Dev. And he ruled in Orissa from 1727 to 1736. He was a son of a great king whose name was Gopinath Dev. And Ramachandra Dev, as we say in the West, he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He had everything. He was very handsome. He was very powerful. He was very intelligent, very educated. He had fantastic wealth. He had thousands of followers who were ready to die for him. He had a large harem of wives. It was a very common thing in those days for a king to have 10, 20 wives. And he had so many sons and children. He had everything going for him. And he was a devotee of Lord Jagannath, aside. A great devotee of Jagannath. He's the king of Puri. The king of Puri, the Gajapati Maharaj, is considered to be Jangama Jagannath, or the moving form of Lord Jagannath. When they opened the Giri temple in Orissa, we went for that Pandal program. And the king of Puri came. Giri village has 200-300 people living in it, including the outskirts. There was something like 20,000 people who came because the king of Puri came. And when he was walking from the car, the devotees provided for him, to the stage, people were falling behind him and digging up the dirt where he walked. Because they considered him moving form of Lord Jagannath. So Ramachandra Dev was such a person. He had everything. No? Anything you'd want, he had. But at that time, there was one Muslim Subadar, the governor of Orissa in West Bengal. His name was Taki Khan. And this Taki Khan decided that he was going to attack the Jagannath temple. He couldn't tolerate seeing the Hindus worshipping some idol. And he thought. So he came with his army, and 3 times he attacked Jagannath Puri. 3 times Ramachandra Dev met him with his army, and they fought. And Ramachandra Dev managed to hold him off. And finally, Taki Khan sent him a message. Maharaj, why should we fight? We all worship the same God. Why don't you come and sit down and have a nice talk with me, and we can work things out. So Ramachandra Dev, he went to meet Taki Khan in Cuttack. And as soon as he arrived there, he found that it was a trap, it was a trick. And Taki Khan captured him and put him in a fort called the Barabati Fort in Cuttack. And he held him prisoner there for 13 months and 15 days. After which, Taki Khan came to him and said, Maharaj, you're suffering here in prison. I don't like to see someone suffer. Huh? I'd like to let you out. In fact, I'd like to put you back in charge again of the Jagannath temple. But there's one condition. You have to become a Muslim and agree to give up your faith. And if you do that, then we won't attack the Jagannath temple, and we'll put you in charge. He's very clever, Taki Khan, because he knew that if there was a Hindu king in charge of things, then the local people would be peaceful. So Ramachandra Dev, what could he say? But he kept thinking about Jagannath's situation, so finally he agreed. The historians haven't commented on it, but I can almost 100% guarantee you that Taki Khan must have given him meat. Must have probably given him cow meat, in fact, because that was a very common way. It was the most common way for Muslims to convert, quote, Hindus at that time, because the Hindus at that time were very orthodox. And they consider if you eat some meat or something, then you've lost your caste, you've lost your religion, you've lost everything. So it's almost certain that he made him eat cow meat. And he gave him a tagiya. You know what tagiya is, Mataji? It's a hat the Muslim men, they wear. In India anyway. The Muslims do, like maybe in Saudi Arabia, some places. And they said, okay now, we'll let you go, but one other thing, you have to marry a nice Muslim girl. So they made him marry the daughter of Shuja Khan. And one other thing too, Maharaj, you have a new name. Now your name is Hafir Qadir. Very good name. This Ramachandra Dev is not a good name. Hafir Qadir, it's a good name. So they gave him that name. The king went back to his palace in Kurda. Came to the palace and told his wives, good news, I'm out of jail. I'm home. I'm so happy to see you. And the wives, they looked at him. What's that thing on your head? So, well, there's something I have to tell you. That now I've become a Muslim. And his wives became disgusted. And all of his wives, they took their children and they left him. We cry if we lose one wife. We lose one husband. But Ramachandra Dev, he had maybe a dozen wives. And he lost all of them. He lost all of his children. But at least he had his friends. But when he went to speak to his friends, they wouldn't talk to him anymore. You're not my friend. You're a Muslim. Get out of here. So Ramachandra Dev was crying. Anyway, I'll go to Puri. I'll take shelter of Lord Jagannath. So Ramachandra Dev, he went to Puri, and when he arrived at the temple to go inside, the Pandits outside the temple said, hey, Pravesh Nishad, entrance forbidden. What do you mean? I'm the king of Puri. Huh? No, sorry Maharaj, you become a Muslim. We heard about it. You can't go inside. So Ramachandra Dev had everything in this world. So much opulence, beauty, friends, wives, children, wealth, fame, prestige. He had everything. But he lost everything. Because he surrendered to the Lord. He did this wonderful, made this wonderful sacrifice for Jagannath. But what was his reward? It's a very cruel thing, isn't it? Krishna says in the Gita, Ye yatam mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyam. I always reciprocate with my devotee. Is this proper reciprocation? You worship the Lord, you give up everything for Him, and then you can't even go inside the temple to see Him, and everyone hates you? So Ramachandra Dev had nothing. He started coming to the temple late at night after it was closed. And he would go outside the front gate and just lay there in the dust and cry. Because he'd lost everything. He didn't have anything. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Like that, and one night finally it was just too much for him. He was always seeing the picture of his children that he lost, and his wife, his wives, and his friends, and everyone's hating him, and he was just crying, oh Jagannath, please be kind to me. And then suddenly that late night he heard a sound, and there was a voice, and the voice said, my dear Ramachandra, I've never forgotten you. You're my dear devotee. Don't lament. And he looked up and he saw Lord Jagannath. Jagannath had come out of the temple to give him darshan. And Ramachandra Dev cried. And Jagannath disappeared. He went home. The next morning, when the Pandits came to the temple and they opened the door, they found something strange. There was a trail of flowers that went from the altar to the front door of the temple. What is this? No one could understand. Every night Ramachandra Dev kept coming back. And every night Jagannath kept giving him darshan. And every morning the Pandits were finding this trail of flowers. What's it all about? Finally, Jagannath came in a dream with one of the Pandits and said, I'm leaving that trail of flowers. Every night I'm going to give my darshan to my dear devotee Ramachandra Dev. I don't like the policy that you have, not allowing him in the temple. He's my dear devotee. And I want you to make a deity of me. So that deity, you can pass this magazine around. This is a picture of that deity in the front of the magazine. It's called Petit Pavan. And he appeared for Lord Ramachandra Dev, for his devotee, to give him darshan. So Krishna says in the Bhagavatam, Yashyaham manakrinami, arishetat dhanam shanai, that if I'm really kind to someone, then I'll take everything away from them. Because in that situation, we'll cry for the Lord. And that crying for the Lord, that's the real wealth. Bhakti yoga, bhakti yoga, bhakti yoga, bhakti Krishna namaskara, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. So Vrindavan Das Thakur says, this is the real wealth. All your money and your position don't amount to anything. When we realize I have nothing, that's when you begin to have something. That's the real beginning of our spiritual life. When I realize I have no assets. I have nothing going for me. I have no credits. And we begin to weep before the Lord, like Ramachandra Dev. And then the Lord will reciprocate, as he did for Ramachandra Dev. And that's the purpose of this movement. Srila Prabhupada said many times that this chanting of Hare Krishna mantra is like a genuine cry of a child for the mother. In Nectar Devotion, he says one should learn this simple technique of crying for the Lord. That's the purpose of our movement. We've not come here to create another religion. People have so many religions. It's kind of a social family thing. That's fine. Keep your religion. But learn the science of crying for the Lord. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Any questions from anyone?
Thank you very much for your lecture. We can feel just by hearing the stories, the way you present, that we can somehow enter that mood of crying for the Lord, of seeing ourselves in this ocean with the waves and have no other shelter. But when we are out of the lecture, we can forget that. So my question is, what can we do on our own to enter that mood? Does it mean some type of meditation, some contemplation? Well, how do we come to that point on our own when we are maybe out of the camp, when we are maybe not with devotees? How do we come to that point again?
No doubt there's many answers that could be given for that. One comes to my mind, that we have to, Prabhupada once he was asked, how did you become so advanced? Kind of a funny question. Prabhupada said, I was always very introspective. So if we just have a good look at ourselves and see really where we're at, then we can cry. But the problem is, when I went to see the mirror was so filthy dirty I couldn't see anything. So Chaitya Darpana Marjana. If we clean that mirror, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says in his commentary in that verse that the first thing is we can see some vague thing. We begin to see our face. And we understand our position in this world. And so from that we can cry. My revered spiritual master, he once spoke something on this subject about crying in Africa. And someone asked him the same kind of question after class. Gosh, that sounds very nice, very beautiful. But how can you really cry? When we were coming on the plane, from Budapest to Zurich, we met a so-called famous musician. Some of you may know of her. Her name is Natalie Cole. She's the daughter of Nat King Cole. Do you remember her? Yeah. It's about our generation. She's an old United music person. Anyway. And we were talking to her something, and Jasandodi and Kurta, and I made friends with her a little bit. We sang a few words, and she asked why we were coming to Zurich, and I said, oh, I'm coming to give a seminar. And she said, oh, what are you talking about? And he said, I'm going to talk about the crying of the soul. And she said, wow, that sounds really cool. I love that subject. So it's naturally an attractive thing for people. Anyway, my Guru Maharaj, when he was asked that same question, he replied to the devotee, he said that just like when you go to a funeral. If you go to a funeral and you don't know the person who died, but everybody in the funeral is crying. So you also start crying due to the association of that place. So if we can associate with devotees who are crying, then we'll cry. And what to do then if we don't have any devotees around us? We're going to some job, and all that we have is non-devotees. Then we can try to remember these things. By reading, by chanting, we have to cultivate that remembrance. And then we can also cry in a different way. But my Lord, where is the holiday camp? When's it coming again? When can I go and hear from Smita Krishna Maharaj? Associate with Srila Satchidananda Maharaj? When will I be able to get such association again? Here I am working this job. I'm crying in the heart, but crying for Krishna. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Right. Mataji?
You talked about being humble, even if to find a person who is lower than you. And you said, for example, when we meet a person who is even eating meat or living a normal life, that we know he never or she never heard about Krishna, and that's why we are lower, because we heard so much about Krishna, but we still don't follow what we heard. But sometimes it's really difficult to be humble when we meet the person and we know maybe the person heard about Krishna, but still they want to teach us and so on. But how is it practically to be livable in life? Because it's just not so easy.
It requires some practice in the beginning. We've seen this song, a few phrases of it. Adoshan Dadasi Moda Prabhu Nityananda. That what is the nature of Lord Nityananda? He doesn't see the faults in anyone. And so if we can cultivate that, if we can stop seeing faults in others, and if we can start looking for good in others, and really become happy when we meet we met this piano player who was a pianist for Natalie Cole. He was on the plane with us, and we met Natalie Cole. And it was just such a nice I felt very happy. He was such an expert musician and artist, and he had so many good qualities, and there's so many things I could learn from him. And I really genuinely appreciated him, really. And he could feel that. And we had a very nice camaraderie, perhaps because of that. So we should look for good qualities in everyone we meet and try to bring those on and see, oh, this person, they're eating meat, they're doing this and that, but they're such a good artist. They're very, very sensitive. They're very attentive to details. Find some good quality in them. And people appreciate that. I remember once we went to some hotel and we were standing in line waiting to get our room, and the lady at the reception was standing there, and there was some man who was very angry, and he was shouting at her and calling her filthy names, and he was a horrible person. And you could see she was practically crying, but she was just, yes sir, I'm sorry sir, whatever, we're trying our best sir, and like that. And then the man finally walked away, and I was next in line. I went up and I said, you know, I just want to tell you, I'm really impressed how you dealt with that man. That was just so extra. You were so tolerant and so good. And it just, all of a sudden she was, oh, thank you very much. And then I was dressed in Dhoti and Kurta, so so you appreciate the Hare Krishnas have some feeling. So we should be a dosha-darshi. Not see fault in others, but always try to find some good in others. But on the other hand, we should be sarva dosha-darshi. See all the faults, be very scrutinizing to find the smallest fault in ourselves. And if we cultivate that kind of attitude, then we can genuinely feel Mosamapatita Prabhu Prabhu, more fallen than anyone else.
How can we then do? Because in relationship, we have relationship where we should take relation, then we have a devotees where we should exchange, and others we should give. This is often said. How should we deal with this? I mean, if we meet a person then who we feel maybe the person didn't understand so much as I did, or I think it is like that. We cannot take association, otherwise we.
So then we should think that I'm not giving this person mercy. When you're going and distributing a book on the street or you're chanting a holy name, don't think you're giving them mercy to someone. Srila Prabhupada's doing that, and Lord Nityananda's doing that. And I'm just trying to be their instrument. And we can cry in our heart, my dear Lord, please help them. They're so covered over. They really, really need your help. And they're wonderful persons. Krishna loves all of them. They're all Krishna's sons and daughters. And if we think like that, if we open up our heart like that, then something happens. We'll get the mercy of Lord Nityananda. And then we'll genuinely become humble. That's my suggestion. Prabhuji?
That's I want to say, we are all children of God,
Yes.
or Krishna, and God loves us in the same way, and we should also love each other in the same way. It's so easy. We should try the best. Yes, without conditioning. There are some people, they love someone because he's beautiful or she's beautiful. They love someone, he's rich or she's rich, or he loves someone, he's successful, something like this. This is not true love. The true love is that we love someone without condition, as God loves us. That's my answer.
Very good. We have 2 minutes, very quickly.
Sometimes if we chant, we can also feel joy in the heart. It might be not on the deepest level, but something is coming, you know. And then we might forget to cry, like to really deeply cry, because there is something which gives us satisfaction or whatever. So.
If you feel some happiness in your heart, it's not that we should pray, oh Krishna, make this go away. I have some taste of the kirtan, please stop that, Krishna. But if we're really feeling that, then that'll soften our heart. If we're really feeling that happiness. And we'll have some room in our heart for others, other than just ourselves. Okay? So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Premanand.